Fog licked the stones of Rue des Martyrs, the way a cold tongue explores broken teeth, veiling the narrow lane in pearlescent gloom. Gas lamps swept amber tears above shuttered windows, and the only music was the distant clatter of hooves along the Grand Boulevards. At the end of the cul-de-sac, beyond a grill of rusted iron ivy, a door without a nameplate waited. His green lacquer was cracked like river ice, but the brass knocker, a satyr's face sprouting rose thorns, gleamed as though perpetually polished by unseen hands. From its seams drifted a breath of scent, crushed violets, scorched sugar, and something stranger, the metallic hush of objects left too long in moonlight. Parisians spoke of the door in hushed phrases over absinthe and newspapers. A perfumery open only at night, they said, where fragrances chased through your blood like exotic. Those who emerged carried bottles stoppered with jet-black glass, each crowned by a ribbon of duskmeal silk. Their cheeks wore the flush of secret pleasure. Yet within a week, many were found lifeless in their apartments, bodies twisted as though by invisible vines, eyes fixed on corners no one else could see. Physicians blamed apoplexy or laudanum, but gossip favored darker hypotheses. Nightmares so vivid the heart mistook them for reality and burst. Marcelin Rousseau followed these rumors the way a dowser follows the tremor of hidden springs. She was 27, a junior reporter for Le Petit Journal, with ink stains beneath her fingernails and no patience for ghost stories, until her younger sister, Amélie, bought one of the midnight files. Amélie had swung through life like a lantern on carnival night, full of glow and laughter. 3 evenings after dabbing that curious scent upon her throat, she was discovered on the Pont Neuf at dawn, face frozen in rapture and terror, arms wide as though embracing something only she could perceive, lungs drowned in the scene's black mirror. Marcelin claimed the body, inhaled the faint perfume still clinging to a collar ruined by river water, and felt a chill spider across her scalp. Violets, scorched sugar, cold metal. Desperation coiled within her. The police were disinterested. The coroner scribbled suicide. So she stripped off her press armband, slipped into morning silk, and resolved to infiltrate the perfumery herself. Acquiring an invitation proved as difficult as coaxing music from a tomb. The house accepted clients solely by referral, and referrals were delivered on monogrammed cards of iridescent vellum. Marceline gained hers by bribing a frequenter, a morose banker named Desrosiers, while he slumped drunk over oysters at Brasserie Chartier. She promised to pen a flattering piece about his philanthropic virtues. He, eager for redemption, scrawled her name and surrendered the gilt-edged pass. On the new moon of November, Marceline approached the satyr door. Its side opened before she lifted the knocker. A wedge of candlelight spilled onto cobblestones, and a woman stepped forward, tall and slender as a midnight reed. She wore a gown the color of ancient bruise and hair pinned under a widow's cap. Her eyes, unblinking, were the lilac of thunderclouds at dusk. "Bienvenue, Mademoiselle Rousseau," she whispered. "I am Madame Léonard Devereux, curator of La Parfumerie Nocturne. Your patronage honors us." The foyer resembled a mortuary chapel more than a shop. Walls paneled with black walnut, niches hosting marble cherubs that exhaled dust instead of song. A rococo chandelier, whose candles were replaced by phials that glowed with luminous serum. Each breath Marceline drew tasted of contradictory memories: warm bread, funeral lilies, rain on slate roofs. Madame Devereux guided her through velvet drapes into a circular showroom, where shelves spiraled upward like the belly of a novelist. Bottles of every shade nested upon wrought iron branches. No labels, merely symbols etched in silver, a fractured crown, an eclipsed sun, a hand with the fingers reversed. Customers moved between them in hushed delirium, selecting vials as gamblers select cards. A valet in dove-green gloves offered Marceline a crystal mulette. "A courtesy sample, mademoiselle." She waved it beneath her nose and staggered. Sudden images ripped through her mind, a spiral staircase descending forever. a child's laughter melting into screams, mirrors multiplying until her reflection drowned. She jerked away, heart battering. Devereaux watched with remote amusement. "We distill more than scent here," she said. "We bottle experience, the soul's most hidden theaters." Her voice was soft but carried the chill of stone corridors. "Yet I sense you did not come merely to purchase." Marceline steadied herself. "I seek employment," she lied smoothly, recalling how her sister had yearned to apprentice as a parfumier. "Your craft fascinates me. My nose is keen, my dedication absolute." An eyebrow lifted. "A curious hour to beg for work." "I cannot sleep," Marceline replied, which was truth enough. Madame Devereaux regarded her as a taxidermist might inspect a hawk, determining where to slide the knife. At last she inclined her head. "Very well. Apprentices may begin at midnight, remain after closing." She glided away before Marceline could exhale relief. By 2 a.m, the last customer had drifted out, clutching their velvet satchel like an adored secret. Latches drew, candles were extinguished, save those Devereaux carried. She led Marceline down spiral steps, each tread groaning like a reluctant confession. The staircase terminated before twin doors of smoked glass. Etched upon them was the alchemical glyph for mercury, inverted. Beyond lay the laboratory, lit by argon lamps that painted everything with morgue moon pallor. Retorts, alembics, and copper serpentines filled the length of the vaulted chamber. But what dominated was the carousel, a revolving iron frame to which were strapped 6 sleeping figures. Naked save for silver filaments threaded into their temples, they breathed in ragged unison, mouths slack, eyes flickering beneath lids. Marceline's stomach lurched. "Who are they?" "Dreamers," replied Devereaux, in a tone one might use for livestock. "Some volunteer for coin, others are procured from hospices where consciousness has already loosened its grip." She stroked the cheek of a gaunt old man, whose skin resembled crumpled parchment. "Each carousel turn draws forth another sequence of images. We harvest them via somnolent galvanism. The filaments conduct psyche into vapor." As she spoke, vapor indeed boiled from a glass hood over the old man's head, coursing through copper piping into a condensing coil draped in frost. Droplets of pale indigo collected at the coil's tip, plinking into a beaker. The room smelled of church incense tainted by rust. "And the customers?" Marceline managed. "They purchase effusions curated from these dreams," Devereaux said. "When worn upon the skin, the extract dissolves the membrane between observer and originator. One inhales, and the dream unfurls in magnificent fidelity." "But the fatalities! My sister!" Marceline's voice cracked. Devereaux turned, amusement sharpening her mouth. "Dreams are neutral. Some bloom into joy, others curdle into horror. We do not guarantee outcomes. Desire courts risk. That is its currency." Rage geysered through Marceline's grief. She considered lunging, smashing apparatus, dragging the dreamers to freedom. Yet she was alone, unarmed, and Devereaux surely had guards lurking like mildew in the stone. Strategy, she told herself. I will gather evidence, alert the police. Patience. Thus began her masquerade. Night after night she descended into the laboratory. She was taught to calibrate voltages, replace saturated filaments, decant essences into obsidian bottles. Her fellow assistants were mute boys with vacant eyes, who seemed grown from the damp floor rather than hired. Marceline slept by day and walked the edge of madness by night, every inhale flavored with stolen reveries, fields of wheat glazed by auroras, teeth clattering inside rain clouds, a lover whose face was comprised of clocks. She recorded descriptions in a pocket notebook, hoping they would substantiate allegations of murder. Yet something corrosive seeped into her resolve. The carousel's victims, she counted 14 in rotation, occasionally whispered as they dreamed. One repeated Amelie's name, another wept music instead of tears, Marceline realized these people were not merely sources, but prisoners of an interminable nightmare economy, and she, by learning the craft, had become complicit. On the 12th night of her tenure, thunder snarled over Paris like a chained beast. In the laboratory, the argon lamps guttered, while Devereux prepared a premiere vintage for a visiting archduke. She required from Marceline a phial of the newest distillate labeled only with the symbol of a broken bridge. Marceline carried it upstairs, dread hammering behind her eyes. The archduke, a wan aristocrat with jaundiced pupils, uncorked the bottle and inhaled deeply. His spine arched. He began to murmur in a language older than Latin, then collapsed, blood spraying from his nostrils. Footmen rushed him away. Devereux regarded the crimson flecks on a damask settee with mild irritation, as though moths had nibbled the fabric. That night, while the curator oversaw the sanitization of her salon, Marceline descended alone with a stolen ring of keys. She intended to liberate the dreamers, then sprint for the Préfecture de Police before dawn. She unlocked the carousel harnesses, starting with a parchment-skinned elder. His eyes opened, unfocused, a starless sea. She whispered, "You're free," and tried to guide him toward the stairs. The laboratory doors slammed. Lamps flared, revealing Devereux flanked by her mute assistants. "Graceful intentions," she said, but misdirected. With a gesture, she ordered the boys to seize Marceline. Their strength was inhuman. Irons closed around her wrists before she could scream. "You coveted truth," Devereux whispered, circling. "Permit me to gift it entirely." She inserted a filament into Marceline's temple. Lightning rippled through her skull. Darkness yawned. Then a corridor of mirrors stretched to infinity. At its end stood Amélie, hair dripping sane water, arms extended. Marceline sprinted, calling her sister's name. Mirrors cracked as she passed, shards singing like cicadas. But Amélie receded no matter how fiercely she ran. Then the corridor melted, revealing a funereal ballroom where dancers wore their hearts on the outside, throbbing red roses pinned to rib cages. Violins shrieked in reverse. She sensed someone else's despair layering beneath her own, a ruinous polyphony. Through the tempest of visions pierced Devereux's voice. "You are now both vessel and receiver. Your terror will be exhaled by tomorrow's clientele. Such economy." Marceline's body thrashed on the carousel. She felt both present and dissolving. Each breath threatened to shatter her sanity. Yet in the swirl of nightmare she discovered a spark. Her notebook, pressed against her ribs by a corset's whalebone. Within its pages lay not only testimony, but a stub of graphite and a single wooden match, kept from nights when the power faltered. In the phantasm she visualized the laboratory, smelling ethanol and aldehydes. The air was one exhale from ignition. She forced her right hand, heavy as marble, to grope the corset's seam, locate the match. Her captors focused on adjusting dials. None noticed as she scraped the match head against the carousel's iron, shielding the flame with cupped palms. Fire blossomed, hungry for vapors. She flung the match toward a glass vat labeled "Concerglat de Cauchemar, Haudement Inflammable." The explosion was less sound than sensation, a fist of heat punching through dimension. Argon lamps shattered. Filaments tore free, spitting blue sparks. Dreamers tumbled from the carousel like discarded marionettes. Flames licked parchment and copper alike. Marceline, half-blinded, wrenched the filament from her skull, pain blooming Lilliputian suns behind her eyes. She crawled toward the staircase, coughing molten roses. Around her, assistants wailed, flesh blistering. She glimpsed Devereux, silhouetted against a curtain of fire, calm as a saint in an icon, arms raised as though conducting infernal choir. Her lips parted in ecstasy. The laboratory ceiling collapsed with a groan. Marceline lurched up the stairs, dragging two of the dreamers who could still stumble, an adolescent girl muttering arithmetic, and the old man who bore Amélie's name on his tongue. Smoke billowed through the showroom, smashing perfume bottles whose contents vaporized into kaleidoscopic miasma. Customers' nightmares blossomed without hosts, painting the air with impossible color. Marceline shielded her charges with a raincoat and plunged through the Seder door onto the slick street, just as windows burst behind them, disgorging fireflies of embers. Sirens wailed, neighbors shouted. Rain began, thick and resolute, hissing upon flame. Marceline collapsed against a lamppost. The dreamers crumpled at her feet, breathing shallow but free. She gazed at the blazing building, expecting at any moment to see Devereaux emerge, garment aflame yet untouched, like mythic salamander. No figure appeared. By dawn, La Parfumerie Nocturne was a black husk, leaking fragrant steam. Rescue brigades recovered charcoal skeletons of copper stills, warped shelves, and 6 bodies fused to the iron carousel. None belonged to Madame Léonard de Vauve. Her private ledger was also absent, as though plucked from reality. Authorities determined the disaster an accidental chemical fire. No charges were filed. The hospital admitted the rescued dreamers. Though malnourished, they would survive. Questions about their ordeal yielded only fragmented babble, staircases of bone, gardens of rust, rivers singing lullabies. Doctors labeled them hysterics. Marceline's notebook, miraculously spared, documented processes too arcane for magistrates. Yet she published what she could. In a special edition of Les Petits Journaux, readers devoured the exposé, but many dismissed it as sensationalist fantasy. Some, however, wrote letters confessing they had owned such perfumes and destroyed them in terror. One envelope contained merely a violet ribbon, damp with tears. Weeks later, Marceline often woke choking on phantom scents, burnt sugar, cold metal, violets. Her physician prescribed chloral hydrate. She declined. Instead, she walked the city at twilight, trusting motion to outrun memory. On one stroll, she passed an apothecary in Montmartre, newly opened. In the window rested a single bottle, stoppered with black glass, tied with dusk meal silk. No label. A shiver crept along her vertebrae. She stepped closer, and behind the pane she could swear the liquid inside swirled like dream fog, forming the shape of a satyr's face, looming thorns. Her hand ached to reach, to uncork, to inhale Amali's laughter one final time, no matter the cost. She clenched her fist until nails broke skin. Marceline turned away and strode down the hill, but the perfume's echo followed, pedaled footsteps on cobbles. She realized then what Devereaux had meant by vessel and receiver. When she destroyed the laboratory, she had ruptured the conduit, yet some of the stolen reveries had already nested within her blood, subtle as musk. She carried them now, an unseen bouquet, exhaling trace notes whenever her heartbeat faltered. Perhaps, she thought, that was Devereaux's design all along. A diaspora of nightmares dispersed among survivors, propagating through memory instead of bottle, a perfumery reduced to ash, yet its fragrance immortal. In her pocket she kept one last match, reminder and safeguard. If ever the dreams grew too loud, she would know what to do with flame. Until then she walked beneath the gas lamps of Paris, breath silver in winter air, wondering which passer-by might suddenly taste violets and scorched sugar and find themselves stumbling along the corridor of mirrors she once fled, reliving a nightmare that was not their own, with fatal results.